I said it was going to be a make it or break it season for Go Ahead Eagles, so who else better to come in than Jude Bellingham?
No, this is a joke.
Okay, that was a bit of a pipe dream as he went to PSG, but he did recommend his brother Joe. Obviously not as good. However, like his sibling, he decided to move abroad to develop further. Now, since it is the final year of Crewman's contract, if he doesn't finish in the top 3, he'll leave. That's a position he was supposed to finish in last year, so with no European football, again, let's see what he did with the squad.
Please, why can't we just forget all about it?
That really wasn't fun.
Come on, give me a break. I'm new in this country.
Oh, man. I had enough of this.
The sales would raise around £9 million, which led to these transfers. The new ball-playing center back on cover is Paulo Gozzi. The former Juventus man who signed for $3 million was also once known as being the greatest goalkeeper in the world. To provide competition at right wing back, Chroo was transferred from Osasuna after only playing one match for the Pamplona-based club. With Mangravidi gone, the left-sided center back was filled by Cesar Haidar of Werder Bremen. A little pricey as the deal is worth up to $5.5 million. Goalkeeping-wise, with Van der Voort refusing to return, that position was filled in by Haydar's teammate, Kalle Julsen. Worth only $1.2 million, will this Swede have a better ending than the previous? To add depth to the midfield, Mohamed Kamara came from Radomiak of Poland. Quite an interesting career path so far, but the guy looks promising. The final player for now would be Jose Maria Guillo of Elche, a promising striker who would also see playing time from the shadow striker role.
We're all wondering how this is going to affect LeBron's legacy.
A lot of new players joined the team, but it was now the moment to test their worth on opening day. Sparta Rotterdam opened proceedings, and the first goal of the season will be finished by last year's January transfer of Philip Bungard. He soon won a penalty less than 10 minutes later, which saw Envakali double the lead. Bruckner joined in the fun, as he somehow scored from a tight angle, while Envakali's shot was too hot to handle for Sparta's keeper. All the work was done within the first 19. Unfortunately, Go Ahead Eagles were put into their place by last year's Eredivisie winners, Feyenoord. An early strike by Adel and a late one by Bustos doesn't need any more commentary than that. They also smoked Ajax 5-1 in their next fixture.
We didn't play well. Feyenoord played good.
Philip Bungard last campaign only got 5 goals and 15 appearances. It wasn't bad, but with a full preseason, the $5 million spent needed more output. Versus PSV away, the first strike was a perfect example of that. Philips Sport were on the verge of becoming a Finnish club. That's because Go Ahead would seal a victory, as Goose Till would find Bungard again. He was starting the season well, finding the winner versus Pek right after, and getting the Eagles' sole goal in a somewhat disappointing 1-1 draw to Groningen. He wasn't going to score in every game, as in a visit to Volendam, the score remained 0-0 for the longest time. A frustrating game that brought reminders of the last campaign. However, with some subs, Joel Bellingham was found, and he slotted the winner late on. FC Eindhoven next would soon learn about Bungard. The Dane contributed in a 3-1 victory, while against Emmen, a different hero was needed. Schalland would find the winner. The team who achieved Dutch Club glory last season and ruined Go Ahead's shot at Europe were next. It was also now Adekanye's club, although he wasn't the one to worry about. Instead, it was Bertink who scored in the 3rd minute. Things got worse when for the 3rd time in a matter of months, 3 got injured. The right wing back position was cursed, as when both him and Bruckner were about to be fit, one of them got injured. Returning to the fixture, thankfully, Bungard would equalize, but the desperation for revenge increased, bringing more risk, and those would cost the side any points. Not sure how that went in, but it wasn't going to be the last painful thing to happen. Almere City afterwards provided that pain by getting an 82nd minute equalizer. Luckily, it would turn right around versus AZ Alkmaar. Mohamed Kamara's 3rd minute goal was added with a Maxi Romero pen prior to halftime. Jean-Philippe Mateta could only muster 1 as Go Ahead got back on track. Cambuur following was much simpler, with Bungard getting 2, aiding in a 3-0 win. 12 match days played, and the side were in 4th place, 4 points behind 1st, and 6 above 5th. However, there was one club annoyingly keeping up with Go Ahead, and that was Heerenveen. Zakaria Marjan and Ezreal Krasniqi were key so far. The first 45 was relatively quiet, but Crewman made the mistake of saying the team had a very good half. Minutes after the restart, Heerenveen would take the lead. The players will be berated and immediately miss a sitter. Still, the right ideas were back, as Bungard was found behind. It's all good. This time, Bungard actually scored. Heerenveen would adjust, and nothing happened until the 88th minute, as Jobert wins the ball, a few passes are made until Invakali with loads of space finds Bungard behind, and he would win Go Ahead the match. A crucial 3 points. In the next month and a half, Go Ahead Eagles would have to face Ajax 3 times. Last year's runners-up have never been defeated by crewmen, but they had another manager shuffle. In the summer, the Belgian FA implemented some sanitization rules, seeing Joachim Löw leave and Stefan Kuntz take his place. Ajax's new boss, another former international manager who resigned after losing to Spain in the quarterfinals of the 2026 World Cup.
Sometimes may be good.
This first encounter against the Italian wasn't so memorable, as it ended in a 0-0 draw. However, Go Ahead would face them 13 days later in the Dutch Cup. During the lead-up, this came versus a really disappointing Utrecht side, and Twente, who once again hired a former Ajax player, Aaron Winter, although I remember him more for his Toronto FC days.
Good afternoon.
Nevertheless, Ajax in the second round of the Dutch Cup was a cruel draw by the KNVB, but the match began incredibly with Guus Til opening the scoring. A lead against them is never safe, but if they were to score, you'd hope they'd have to earn it rather than Gotzi messing Drolsen up with a more than savable shot. That was 10 minutes after the break, but not long after, Til would sacrifice his life by getting destroyed by Edson Alvarez, but the tackle turned into a perfectly placed pass to Boomgaard, who cleaned up Ajax's mess to go back ahead. Unfortunately, Ajax would have a counterattack about 20 minutes later, and no one decided to pick up old man Verratti, who lost any pace he had. Yet, he could still hit one from distance, as the Italian equalized the encounter. In spite of that, the fight was there for Go Ahead. Here we go, Jean-Bert, Romero, to Macaulay. Boomgaard! 3-2! Yes! A wild encounter saw the team finally defeat Ajax and advance to the next round. Crewman was about to make it 2 wins in a row in the fixture a month later. Go Ahead were up 2-0, and better yet, they had a man advantage for basically the last half hour. The lead up to this moment saw 2 wins in the Eredivisie, including a 5-0 thumping of Vitesse. A win versus Ajax would have the Eagles fly above into second place. However, a 73rd minute corner eventually found the corner taker himself, Lamar, all alone. And despite Jete's best effort, he could only deflect it in. Following a bunch of changes, like dropping the defensive line, Ajax were still able to run in behind easily as Lamar once again found space and equalized the affair. Well, that's a shame, but still solid not to lose to Ajax all season. Volendam were next in the Dutch Cup a few days later, so the side would have to be rotated. It featured a few debuts, including Bamba, who is a goalkeeper from Ivory Coast. He arrived last summer for 140k. The other debut in was Robel Germay of Norway, transferring from Brann for a combined 3.8 million deal. Fun fact, he was born in Eritrea. Worryingly, the rotated side saw Volendam hit the post in the last 10 minutes. Go Ahead would have an even better chance just before full time. Chances continued in the extra halves, as Boomgaard somehow hit the post from point-blank range. The wasted opportunity would cost them, as after a few weird moments, Klisner was found and Bamba rushed out, exposing most of the net. Til responded by hitting the post, and so would Boomgaard. All that work to defeat Ajax was just wasted. Julesen also got sick prior to that result, and he would miss the fixture versus Feyenoord. Still undefeated to this point, if things like this were going to happen, it will remain that way. However, Feyenoord's Mool would make a crucial error, with Boomgaard taking advantage of that. Alas, the bounces would go Feyenoord's way, as in the second half, the ball ended up on Van de Beek's foot, and he took the lead. Despite not really deserving to lose, all the points would go to the still undefeated team. 20 match days were played, and it was relatively tight between second, which was automatic Champions League, third, which was the playoff round of the Champions League, and fourth, which wouldn't be the Europa League proper because Sparta Rotterdam somehow won the Dutch Cup. The semi-finalists were all clubs that likely wouldn't qualify for Europe, so fourth's fate was known for a while. Before the fixture versus Heerenveen, Go Ahead would win versus Sparta Rotterdam 1-0 thanks to an Macaulay banger. They would defeat Twente 2-0, keeping a 2-point gap between the clubs as they faced off. Good news early on, as the man who scored a brace versus Twente, Van Amersfoort, got injured. Heerenveen would have to adapt, but Crewman didn't, as Mario Dorgelis found the other wingback Brugner, and his first time pass found Job, who would score the lone goal.
Yes! That's what we work on in training.
Then, in the next 4 matches, Boomgaard would score 7. Cambour with James Tavernier were defeated 4-1. Following that, Utrecht unfortunately finished in a draw thanks to an early strike. However, they would have a shocking relegation. FC Eindhoven next was wild, being 2-2 at one point, but Boomgaard's 69th minute goal, along with Evan Colley's 81st, gave a 4-2 victory. Finally, Boomgaard's run saw 2 versus FC Emmen in a 4-1 triumph. Groningen away was then a pain to witness. Nothing basically happened for the entire 90. That was until late on, with subs already made, Schallen would find Brugner, and his cross delivered once again, as it found Jose Maria Guillo for the game-winning goal. That excitement teetered as Envicoli's strike versus Almere City was cancelled out by Bro. Huh? So that was what Overmars was referring to. I thought he was just high, which is better than what he did at 6 fixtures left, and go-ahead Eagles were well in front of Heerenveen as they began to drop points left, right, and center. Ajax were just 2 points above, and with them drawing Feyenoord 0-0, Crewman had the chance to match them on points if PSV could be defeated. The opponents have had a messy season, seeing another manager go to Gladbach, and unlike Peter Bosch, he had success by winning the Conference League, and this wasn't looking good for them. 10 minutes in, and Boongard would take the lead. The scoreline remained tight for a while, but nothing would stop this Envicoli strike from distance. He'd add to their misery with a penalty a few moments later. Even Schallen got involved as Christian Luna, who joined in the summer, found the Norwegian to give go-ahead an emphatic W. AZ away was tougher, with Jens Odgaard scoring in the 21st. They, like PSV, had manager changes. Jan de Jonge decided to leave to become Netherlands boss. After, they failed to even get an interview with Crewman and hired Almere City manager Ricardo Moniz. He was sacked 6 months later, and AZ tried to go for Crewman once again. He ignored them. So, they stole Rob Penders away from FC Eindhoven. Back to the encounter, it was getting late, with Boongard having a bad night. So when in doubt, bring out Haaland. Schallen's 2 goals gave a massive victory, but we can't ignore the winter signings of Lucas Havlik getting the assists on both. Already worth the 850k spent. 2 important wins had the team even on points with Ajax, just behind by a single goal difference. An opportunity to hop above them arrived as they drew PSV 1-1. Volendam was next for go-ahead, and the Eagles showed what should have happened in the Dutch Cup with an Envicoli brace and Bellingham adding one himself. So, if the last 3 fixtures were won, go-ahead would finish in second, although there was no shot to catch Feyenoord at this point, as they were having a legendary campaign where they wouldn't lose a single match, finishing on 90 points. Into the final games, Peg Zwolle were handled easily. FC20, on the other hand, wasn't so simple. Go-ahead were getting many shots, but nothing was hitting the back of the net. Meanwhile, Ajax were scoring goal after goal versus Groningen, winning 6-1 and boosting their GD. Back at the Oudeloorshorst, Twente would keep possession without getting a single shot and kept the scoreline the same. So points were level, but Ajax hopped above on goal difference. That was the deciding moment due to them defeating Heerenveen on the final day with a first-minute finish, while go-ahead could only win by 2 versus Excelsior, ending up in 3rd. No need to be sour. It's their best campaign since probably the 30s, and was also the most points in the club's history. 3rd place would have them end up in the last round of the Champions League qualifying, so Europe was guaranteed, whether in the elite competition or the glorious Europa League. Now the real problem. These Dutch clubs are downright terrible in Europe, as the goal fishing ain't looking good.